An old proverb says, keep your head in the cool and your feet in the warm. And the Aksu River follows this rule precisely. Its sources hide in the eternal snow of Zhetysu Alatau, and in its lower reaches the river makes its way through the hot sands of Koshagil. The river goes through 4 climatic zones: the alpine meadows belt, coniferous forests, foothill steppes and sandy deserts. Arriving in the plain close to the village of Zhansugurov, it changes its temper and turns into a quiet, inundated river, which also affects the economic activities of the people living along its banks. In Kazakh, Aksu means white water. The outdoor KZ expedition will observe the adventures of the white water from its sources down to Lake Altai. The village of Zhansugurov, the administrative center of Aksu district, is located 350 kilometers away from Almaty on the Aksu River. The village was founded in 1850 as a post picket. The settlement received its current name in honor of a classic of Kazakh literature, the first chairman of the Writers' Union of the Kazakh SSR, Ilyas Zhansugurov. His fate, although very bright, turned out tragic. He made an outstanding career and gained fame as poet, playwright, prose writer and public figure, but as many other talented people of the time, fell victim of political repressions. The expedition is crossing the Gasford's mountain pass. Gustav Christianovich Gasford's personality received ambiguous assessments in literature and testimonies by contemporaries. While some authors called him a retrograde, others highlighted his significant contribution to the development of Semirechye territory. Both sides recognized his personal courage and honesty. During his youth, a famous researcher and educator, Shokan Valikanov, served as aide-de-camp to the glorified general. Gasford's life story is enough to make a dozen adventure novels. He participated in hundreds of battles in the course of 8 wars. During the Borodino battle, for example, he was wounded twice but continued to order his company. Shokan Valikanov passed through the post picket in 1856 during his journey to Lake Issyk-Kul and left multiple detailed descriptions of the northern foothills of the Junga mountain ridge in his diaries. Beyond the district center, the road turns away from the Almaty-Usk-Kamenogorsk highway and goes into the mountains. Game manager Kazbek Nusipov and Inspector Rustem Dosimbekov are joining the team. They were born here and know everything about the area. The expedition is passing the Sawiksai Rural District, a zone of intensive distant pasture livestock production. The corpulent mountain meadows are great for sheep, horses and cows, quickly gaining weight. The premises of the hunting farm begin after the Balasaz Aul. Many mistakenly think that a hunting farm is an area specially allocated for hunting and animal husbandry. In reality, hunting lands possess the legal status of easement or servitude, that is, secondary land use, which means that if any wild animals live on the territory owned by the primary land user, an agricultural tenant, this land can be simultaneously used for agricultural and hunting purposes. That is, a hunting farm can be established and function within the same limits. During hot periods, shepherds try to move their herds as high as possible up into the mountains to save them from importunate insects. In recent years, the population of pink starlings has increased. Some farmers think that pink starlings damage gardens and vineyards. It might be true, but they also destroy a huge number of pests. Every day, each starling catches over 100 locusts. In dry weather, mountain roads are okay for an SUV, although during the rain, clay soil slopes can become very dangerous. Once they mined gold in Jatisu Alatau. Its commercial extraction was especially intensive during the second half of the 19th century. It is still possible to come across abandoned mines, dilapidated gold prospector huts, pics and trace of the Golden Rush era wandering around in the mountains.
Считают, что вот это вот сакральное место.
Some people consider this place to be sacral, although it's just a gold mine gallery. Let's see what's inside. The area can be of interest not only to historians but likewise zoologists. The stream running in the middle of the cave is full of life. What biological discoveries does the dark of the cave still keep? Many years ago in Turkmenistan they discovered a new fish species which lives practically in utter darkness in caves. In our case, take a look at this no less interesting endemic, the Turkestan Sloth. The tunnel leads to uncertainty. How far is it safe to go? Will the ancient arches bear the noise? This gallery is very long. I cannot say how far it goes. Well, what do we have here? Some quartz traces. Where there is quartz, there's gold. Our hopes of finding gold did not come true, but we found some other trophies no less valuable for those who have devoted all their lives to exploring their native land. Outside the cave it's 20 degrees above zero, and inside the temperature is close to zero. Yet the cave is full of life. There are dozens of midgets and slugs. And in the underground river there are amphipods. I didn't find gold, that's a minus. But I came back to light, that's a plus. The expedition crosses the last forestry cordon. Mini hydropower stations are operating on the stream. In due time, academician Shafik Shokin came up with the idea of providing remote mountain communities with electricity by thousands of small HPPs. The idea didn't gain support of the party's top management at the time as it seemed not ambitious enough. In those days, they honored only large-scale missions and Komsomol epoch-making construction projects. The road is controlled by the cordons of state forestries, previously called leskors or forestry farms, and hunting farm cordons. The work of foresters and gamekeepers is similar, although they perform different functions. Whereas the foresters protect the public forestry fund, the gamekeepers monitor the wildlife. The expedition's task is to collect as much as possible information about the fauna of the Aksu River Valley, which is not that easy as wildlife resource management represents a multi-level system engaging various stakeholders, private and public organizations and agencies. In the past, all of them were public and were subordinate to party management. In recent years, after transition to market economy and adoption of amendments to the law on protection, reproduction and rational use of fauna, hundreds of private hunting farms were created. Hunting entities signed contracts with the authorized body on fixing the corresponding hunting grounds. They are obliged to protect fauna on their premises and execute necessary biotechnical measures. For this, they are given a certain hunting quota for designated animal species. Since in the 21st century trade hunting practically lost its economic value, these quotas are used by hunting farms to organize the so-called sports hunting for Kazakhstan citizens and trophy hunting for foreign citizens. Development of hunting tourism is among the top priorities specified in the State Tourism Development Program. The season of hunting tourism lasts only a few months, yet it is necessary to maintain guest houses and to pay salary to gamekeepers and managers all year round. Thus, hunting farms are trying to develop their ecotourism infrastructure. They are building new guest cabins, train horses and procure necessary equipment. The outdoor KZ team will stop over at one of such guest houses at one of the hunting farms. My dear fellows, we should use this great opportunity to spend the night in this comfortable lodge most fruitfully. Therefore, let's first of all charge all our batteries now and only then attend to our personal business. Tomorrow we'll go to the mountains and there will be nowhere to recharge there. As a rule, eco-tourists, like hunters, don't go to distant countries searching for five-star hotel service. They are ready to overnight in tents and are attracted by the nature unchanged by economic activities where there are many wild animals and few people. Yet a comfortable guest lodge in the mountains is nice anyway.
Завтра мы на лошадях уходим в путешествие.
Tomorrow we'll take horses and we'll show you the animals inhabiting these parts and of course the beautiful river.
И, конечно, саму реку покажем.
Modern ecology takes account of not only biological but also management, economic and social factors. The real-life interests of locals, gamekeepers and managers play a no less important role for wildlife preservation than scientific research. Can you tell us about your hunting farm? Our hunting farm is located in the mountains of Zhansugurov in the Aksu river basin. It covers 47,531 hectares of land. We conduct annual mammal species counts. Based on them, at present we currently have 259 morals, 200 teke mountain goats and 205 roe deer. In the past we lost almost all our bulls, but in recent years bull population has grown up to 80 animals. As you can see, a couple of female morals are grazing close to the cordon. Soon they will depart to their shelters, as the time has come. At present we have morals, teke mountain goats and roe deer in our hunting farm. We also have animals included in the national red list, including brown bear, argali and snow leopard. Further development of the hunting farm will ensure creation of new jobs for local residents. Provided high-level protection and preservation, poaching will decrease. Likewise, with decreased poaching, the number of hunting animals inhabiting the farm will grow. For example, recently we bought a couple of photo traps. They use solar energy and do not need any attendance by humans. We installed them in places most visited by people. Sometimes livestock from adjacent farm grazes on the premises of our hunting farm. What might the respective solutions be? Could you give an example? The best option would be if hunting and agricultural farms were owned by same owners. Then the areas inhabited by wild animals wouldn't be used for cattle grazing. Pastures would have clear boundaries and agricultural animals would stay within them. This would be the most appropriate approach. Compared to cattle breeding, hunting business is considered more profitable. As you know, where cattle appear, the nature begins growing scanty. Grass and herbs simply disappear. At present, we are not letting anybody in our premises without a special permit. Earlier, the nature was considered as everyone's resource and anybody could come here without permission. Now, since we are a private operation, we allow entrance to our territory only based on a justified need. The main challenge now is that we have invested a lot of money in the hunting farm. But with the hunting quota of 3 to 4 animals per year, it's really hard for us to compensate this money. Thus, we are taking a lot of effort to increase animal populations, enhance protection measures, ensure extra nutrition and install salt stations for animals. This will help us obtaining additional hunting licenses. In the morning, the expedition team splits. One group will reach the riverhead on horseback and the other one will use SUVs. We have GPS marked the coordinates of the meeting point, the Sujegan Jailau near the Shepherd's Yurt. At times, mountain roads have dangerous side angles. If it starts raining, the clay soil slopes will get mushy and we'll have to wait a couple of days for them to become dry. A skilled horse rider can cover 50 to 60 kilometers a day, but for city tourists, 10 to 15 kilometers is quite enough. With the main goal of our horse tour, wild animal observation, we need to get up rather early in the morning.
Как только выходит солнце, моралы сразу же прячутся в чащу.
As soon as the sun rises, morals hide in the thickets. So the best time to see them is 6 to 7 a.m. Mountain goats can be encountered all day long, although in the afternoon they usually take rest on abrupt, rocky slopes. In the international tourist market, the demand for horse tours is rather high, but the competition is high too. Thousands of travel companies from around the globe offer their clients picturesque journeys to wild nature corners with guaranteed opportunities to take pictures of wild animals and birds.
Экологические туристы, которые отправляются в конные походы, они
No doubt, eco-tourists going on horse tours want to see animals. Giving them such a chance isn't always easy, as animals lead a night or twilight life. This means they can be observed only either early in the morning or late at night. Another important thing is installing the temporary camp in close proximity to the actual observation site. So there are many factors and it's sometimes hard to take care of all of them. In our case, we have ascended to the upper forest boundary, which is the best place for observing morals. We have about 30 minutes to observe them and, if we get lucky, take a couple of pictures. One hypothesis says that the East Asian red deer subspecies are the ancestors of all red deer around the world, that is, over 10 different types. The East Asian subspecies is the largest of all. In spite of the fact that in Europe and North America a huge number of deer are hunted every year, many hunters want to come to Kazakhstan for morale hunting. The price for a hunting tour at exhibitions may fluctuate from 6 to 10,000 euros, which includes all expenses except the airfare. Of course, animal meat, horns and skin doesn't cost that much. The high surplus value of morale hunting tours is a peculiar tourist brand which has already won its place in the international tourist market and enjoys stable demand. In other words, this is a valuable renewable tourist asset that the state should rationally use. In the course of the last 100 plus years, morale population in Kazakhstan has endured a dramatic history. In the early 20th century, the number of inhabited area reduced to a critical mark, with excessive hunting as the main and only reason for that. Peasants, professional trade hunters and staff of various military divisions hunted morals practically without any terms, restrictions or rules. In the 20s of the last century, the Soviet government established a network of reserves and a hunting control system. By the 70s of the last century, the number of morels has significantly grown and their habitat has expanded. In the 90s, though, due to a systemic crisis, morel populations had dropped once again and started slowly growing only recently and not everywhere. It is observed only on the premises of farms which execute proper wildlife protection. Female roe deer usually brings 1 to 2 cubs. This mother of many children has brought 3. In some unexplainable way, the number of cubs in one dung in a season correlates with the dynamics of the overall roe deer population. When it is reducing, the birth rate automatically increases, and vice versa. When there are too many roe deer, the risk of epizootic outbreaks rises, turning on some self-regulation mechanism. Roes give birth only to 1 cub. This natural phenomenon still requires additional investigation. The expedition's mounted group meets the auto group in the appointed place, and it's time to set up the camp. It's hot in the mountains in the afternoon, but at night the temperature falls below 0. Wildlife explorers can find interesting objects for filming directly near the camp. The male of common wheat eater is smartening up. It needs to be in shape all the time as it is on duty, protecting its nest. The Eurasian whitethroat is concerned about the city that unexpectedly emerged in vicinity. You never know what these uninvited guests might do. The long-tailed gopher decided to observe the newcomers from a secure shelter, but it appears that it was spotted and it's time to flee. The black kite has taken an observation post at a safe distance. The drone is closing on the confused bird. What to do? Attack or take defense? The unknown white enemy is buzzing so scary that perhaps it's better to escape. An inquisitive person has no time to miss in the mountains, as there is so much unexplored and unknown around. The world around is so bright and exciting that you cannot help wanting to learn about it more and more. Have a look here, a representative of grasshoppers and a Dane's blood bellflower. This plant is called Phlomoides, or lampwick plant. Take a look at one of the Taraxacum representatives. In Kazakhstan we have its several subspecies. Baljan, do you know what plant this is? No, I can't tell you for sure, but it definitely looks tasty. Can I try it? Photo hunting usually brings many more trophies than gun hunting. Here creeps an angry fiddler beetle, quite a trophy. In one picture we have 2 trophies at once, an angry bug and a remarkable plant, short-stamped Angelica. Baljan, come here. Do you see these 2 coniferous species? Can you identify them? This one is a low-growing and the other one is rather high. Of course I know what they are. The first one is a fir tree and the second one is archa or juniper. A week ago when we were in Nogam, the juniper there was huge, almost like this fir tree. Why? You're absolutely right, Baljan. It's juniper, but it's the creeping subspecies, whereas in the Ugam Valley, which is within the western Tian Shan mountain system, we saw its arborescent relative. Once upon a time, one of our colleagues, a zoologist, was on a long hike and didn't return to the camp before the night. So he spent the night in the hollow of a juniper tree. Exploration of plants growing on mountain meadows can take up the whole life, but the expedition's goal is to cross all high-altitude zones together with the Aksu River. It's high time to go down to the valley. The fertile belt of foothill steppes stretches along the northern macro slope of Zhatesu Alatau. They are ideal both for cattle breeding and regular agriculture, and that's why, throughout centuries, these lands were the object of bloody wars. Almost all settlements in Zhatesu are standing on river banks. It is widely thought that the name Zhatesu or Semirechye is related to 7 rivers. Yet in fact, there are many more rivers here. In the poetic Kazakh language, the word Zhati or 7 in Russian can also mean a lot. In this case, a more precise translation of Zhatesu could be the land of many rivers. In its lower reaches, Aksu turns into a quiet, inundated river with muddy water and floodplain woods along the coast. People have been living here for thousands of years. In winter, trees would provide heating fuel and protect cattle from icy winds. And in summer, animals would hide in the tree shadow from the scorching sun. Nowadays, the rivers attract city hunters, fishers, and common vacationers. The steppe was replaced by the sandy desert, but some signs are telling us that we are slowly approaching the floodplain. Here and there we see separate trees of Asiatic poplar and purple willow. Usually Tatari sand boa works at night and rests in the afternoon buried in the sand. Today something went wrong as it was forced to get out from the shelter in broad daylight. Either it's really hungry or it needs to attend to some urgent matters. It appears the sand boa is not happy about the photo session and decided to teach the importunate paparazzi a lesson. Biting the camera did not yield any results, so it's better to change the tactics and hide in high grass. These snakes are non-venomous. Sometimes uneducated people kill them, confusing them with vipers, although there's a penalty for that. Tatari sand boas do a lot of good destroying rodents, carrying various infections. The outdoor KZ team sets up the camp on the bank of Lake Altai, near the influx of the Baskan River. The lake coast is covered with dense reed thickets, and it's hard to find a nice and flat piece of land. Lake Altai is famous for excellent fishing. In spring and fall, packs of migrating birds gather here too. The coastal reeds are inhabited by wetland animals like boars and roe deer. While one part of the team is putting up tents, the second one tries to diversify the modest expedition diet with some fresh fish. The only things that you need for fishing are a fishing rod, a piece of fishing line, a hook and a piece of bread for bait. Hooray! It worked out, so we'll have a wonderful fish soup for dinner tonight.